What do you get when you have a 16mm camera, a couple of Super 8mm cameras lying around, and access to a lakefront mansion? Why, you get an impromptu horror film, of course. So a while back, my wife and I were staying at this beautiful yet somewhat spooky lakefront estate. I'd just recently taken out my old Bolex 16mm and a couple of my Super 8 cameras from storage, and while doing that I realized that I had a bunch of unused film that needed to be shot. So it just seemed logical that we would spend a Saturday afternoon shooting a film, playing around and experimenting with these cameras, some of which I hadn't used in almost 20 years. So being a huge fan of old black and white horror films such as Nosferatu, Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, just to name a few, it was just an easy choice for us to make a horror film kind of in that vein. Knowing that this was going to be a silent film, I wanted to capture a similar mood, tone, and aesthetic that these older films had.
I think one of the coolest aspects of the ghost story is the mansion that we shot in, which was in Fort Erie. And this place was spooky. Like, it was on a totally private lane, like private area that you had to drive in, and you had to drive in through the forest to get to it. So that in itself, I was like, am I going to get my car stuck? Where am I going right now? Where does Tim have me going? But it was just such an incredible building. There was about 8 rooms. There was this giant fireplace, and it had this presence. Like, we were definitely not the only people there. There was ghosts in there for sure, and I think it really added to the film to be able to shoot in such an incredible location.
And once again, we weren't going to pour a lot of resources into this. This was more about sort of getting the wheels back on in shooting film. A couple of our team members had shot film prior, and once again, like me, they had taken a couple decades off from doing it. So it was more about sort of getting into the flow of using this medium again. Our goal was to create something that had a certain spirit to it. And, without spending too much time or resources on that, we looked towards public domain to find a story. And with all of us being fans of Edgar Allan Poe, we settled on one of his poems called Spirits of the Dead. And this was going to be used as a guide track for the visuals that we were going to shoot. To me, this is all about being creative and trying to have fun, finding cheap to zero cost ways to get a shot done.
We had Lewis, who was our leading man in this one, so he's always helping us out, usually with writing and cinematography, but he was jumping in, being the leading man in this one, which was awesome. He killed it, as usual. And then my sister, Sarah Doby, she jumps on screen as well. This is her on-screen debut, first of many, I'm sure. If you blinked, you might have missed her out there, but trust me, she's on screen. She makes it on screen. Absolutely on screen. She also helped with makeup, which she's always doing, which is a huge help for us.
And despite it being a spooky film, we were having fun on set. And one of my favorite moments was when Steve literally had Tim on a dolly for a dolly shot on film. I mean, this was incredible.
And when I say dolly, I don't mean the kind of dolly that you would see on a film set. I mean the kind of dolly that you would see someone moving a fridge with.
We actually used a dolly, like from Home Depot.
We wanted some tracking shots in there, so we don't have the big rig and everything like that. So I can remember Tim asking me, do you have any dolly experience? I said, Tim, that's all I've got. That's all I've got is dolly experience. So jump up there and let me wheel you around this property, okay? And we did, and we got the shots we needed. So sometimes you got to get creative out there, Sometimes, if I can quote Royal Tenenbaum, sometimes you got to throw a brick through the other guy's windshield. You know what I mean? You just got to mix it up. You got to get it done. You got to figure it out. Things pop up. You never know what's going to happen. So it's our job to solve those problems when they come up and fix them as best as possible. Anytime Tim wants to get on a dolly and have me rip him around, I'm always going to say yes. So that was a lot of fun.
This was more about coming together, having fun, and shooting something on film because it had been so long since I had done that myself. And especially since this is something that I want to continue using in the future on certain projects that are coming up. So shot, it's over here. And the funny thing is, a majority of the film that we shot on was actually expired. And you know, while I wouldn't really recommend this if this was something you were going to do on like a passion project, for us, you know, just being like a day experiment, we were all in on seeing the results that we were going to get. And some of it turned out quite grainy, as you can see, but it was still usable, and it's still kind of fun to know that you can have decades old film sitting in your fridge that you can still use.
Given the choice, I would much rather shoot on film. For me, it could depend maybe on your script and things like that too. Maybe digital works better. But for me, I like the look of film. Something about it just looks a little bit more real, looks a little bit more raw. It kind of has a little bit of a nostalgia feeling for me, for maybe some of the movies that I grew up on.
Easy peasy. In the end, I feel like just doing something for the sake of doing something is sometimes more important than actually crafting a masterpiece that you want to take to the Cannes Film Festival. This is something that I find helps sharpen the skills, help work out things that you wouldn't want to be working out when you're on a bigger production where there's a lot of money invested. It's so vital to your own development as a filmmaker to just pick up a camera, get some friends together and shoot. And you know, some of us, you know, we work professionally as filmmakers, so you know, we wouldn't really want to show something that we're not super proud of, but at the same time, it's fun to show something that you're not super proud of. You know, no one's perfect, and everyone is still learning no matter where you are on the journey. And to me, this was what this was all about, and seeing what we can come up with like $0 invested in this, and just enjoy using a medium that not many people are using anymore. And this is something that is super kind of like easy to do. If you have a Saturday off and you have a bunch of friends who have a Saturday off, you know, you can either sit around doing nothing, or you can kind of put together a little short and see what happens. You know, you don't have to have any big ambitions, plans. It doesn't have to be part of a festival. It could just be you getting together and trying to exercise your skills. So that's it for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and more importantly, never stop trying, never stop creating, and we'll see you next time.